as defined in the Act, which according to me is very difficult today. Or I fall into the negative list, or I fall into the exemption. If I fail, then I am liable to pay service tax. If I fail, then I am liable to pay service tax. Today, the revenue has to simply issue one line letter to you, please pay service tax. They need not prove anything. The onus has been shifted upon the assessee to prove it is not a service. If it is a service, it is under the negative list. If you fail therein, then it is under the exemption list. The only exclusion here is not to include, please see this, this is important, mere transfer of title in immovable property. If there is a transfer of title in immovable property, it will not be subject to service tax. Why? Because of the constitutional scheme. The union cannot levy tax on a transaction involving immovable property. Therefore, they say it is exclusion. See the next exclusion also. Transfer, delivery or supply of goods which is deemed to be a sale under 366(29)(a) will not be subject to service tax. This is again constitutional. Please note, they are not doing any mercy to you. They cannot tax it. Therefore, these exclusions are there. A mere transfer of title in immovable property is not subject to tax. With this, let us see the L&T case observation. We'll just read out. I do not want to be late. We'll read out whatever you were saying all these years. And now what the full bench says. This is what the earlier court said. Any agreement entered into by the builder or the promoter before the completion of the construction tantamounts to works contract and hence liable to VAT. This matter, as I told you, was referred to a full bench by Justice Sinha, saying that this is contrary to Hindustan Shipyard and Purushottam Premji. Now see what the Supreme Court says, Constitution. These are, please note, these are not my words, please don't hit me. It's a verbatim reproduction of para 101 of the judgment. For sustaining the levy of tax on goods deemed to have been sold in the executive works contract, three conditions must be fulfilled. One, there must be a works contract. Pause here. Sir, this was the precise doubt whether it's a works contract or no. This was the precise question before the Supreme Court, whether it's a works contract or no. They say it should be a works contract. It's a rhetorical question. It's a complex question, as they explain. It's a complex question. Where is the answer in it? The goods should have been involved in the execution of works contract, and the property in the goods must be transferred to a third party, either in goods or in some other form. If these three conditions are satisfied, then it's a works contract. According to me, all contracts where there is a material will be works contract, if this definition has to be seen. They say, for the purpose of Article 366(29)(a), in a building contract or any contract to do construction. Sir, this answers your question, sir, partly. Any contract to do construction, if the developer has received or is entitled to receive valuable consideration, the above three things are fully met. Any contract to do construction will be a works contract. Because Supreme Court says the three conditions are met. It is so because in the performance of the contract for construction of building, the goods like cement, concrete, steel, bricks, etc. are intended to be incorporated in the structure, and even though they lose their identity as goods, but this factor does not prevent them from being goods. So any contract for construction is taxable. Where a contract, please see this, sir. Where a contract comprises of both, this was the argument of the assessee, this also been rejected. Where a contract comprises of both a works contract and a transfer of immovable property, such contract does not denude of its character as a works contract. The term works contract in Article 366(29)(a) takes within its fold all genres of works contract and is not restricted to one species of a contract to provide for labor and services alone. Nothing limits the term works contract. So even if your contract says that the property will be transferred, the flat immovable property, it's a works contract. Even if your contract says it's a works contract. Building contracts are a species of works contract. See this, sir. A contract may involve both a contract of work and labor and a contract for sale. In such a composite contract, the distinction between a contract for sale of goods and a contract for work is virtually diminished. So please don't argue for any bifurcation, say that no, this is a sale contract, this is a service contract, no. Irrespective of that, we will say it's a works contract. Then the assessee argued, in BSNL's case, the Supreme Court held, look at the dominant nature test as to what is the dominant nature which gives the contract its color. In a contract for service, okay, when you come to a lawyer for his legal opinion or a chartered accountant for his opinion, there is no intention to transfer the property in the paper to you. Look at the dominant nature. Dominant nature is to provide the service, and therefore it will qualify as a service. Vice versa, if the intention is to supply goods, for example in Volta's case, when he sells you this AC, air conditioner, and he comes and fits into your house, the fitting supply or the installation supply is purely incidental to the sale. It's not an aim in itself. It's not an aim in itself. As in car protection plans case, the European Court of Justice explains that the supply should be an aim in itself. It should not be an incidental or an auxiliary to the main supply. So that is the dominant nature test, which our courts also held, which was explained by the European Court of Justice in car protection plans. What now they say? Dominant nature test has no application.
Sir, one question. This dominant nature test, they said, is now no longer applicable because that 366/29 has come. But 366/29 has come only qua sales tax. The definition itself says tax on sale or purchase of goods. I mean, a development contract where there are three elements, land, service and goods, so goods ठीक है चला गया. But qua land and service, can we say that the dominant nature test still survives?
It should be. According to me, should. He's asking a very good question, sir. He's saying dominant nature test is gone because Supreme Court says 366/29A is there, which says tax on sale of goods involved in the execution of works contract either in the form of the goods or any other form. So long as that is concerned, this test is irrelevant. But when the contract says with the transfer of immovable property, will this test still apply? Or there is a service element, will this test still apply? Because 366/29A was only in the context of sales tax. Can that be stretched to an extent to say that service tax also will be applicable and transfer of immovable property will be applicable? According to me, no. This was precisely the contention raised in Indian Oil Tanking's case, where I succeeded by a 2:1 majority. I succeeded saying that this amendment is only qua sales tax. Service tax has not got nothing to do with it. Service tax was never there. It came from 1994. And construction service came in 2004. Works contract came in 2007. Your construction amendment, your deeming fiction has come in 2010. This has got nothing to do with 366/29A, which is the correct proposition. But now full bench has overruled that. A 5-judge bench has overruled that. Okay. I still hold that contention is correct. This amendment will not apply qua immovable property. This amendment will not apply qua service.
Sir, qua immovable property, sir, in one example taken, big plot of land 5 acres, and it has been divided, and some plot has been in a small plot is to be sold, but they carry out some activity, carrying out roads, fencing and everything. Intention is to sell the small plot of land. Can it say the dominant intention is transferring the immovable property and service tax would not apply?
Sir, again here, as I told you, sir, these are all matters of contract. Your contract will determine whether there is a supply or no. If you say that there is a sale of this plot of land and the fencing is incidental to that, it can be argued as a sale of property. There is only a sale of property and there is no element of service in it. Okay, that's where Volta's Supreme Court held. The installation part, assessee argued that 100 rupees AC I have sold, 100 rupees air conditioner I have sold. In that 3 rupees is installation, because that man will come installation. So tax will be payable only 97 only. the court overruled it and saying that no, entire 100 will be subject to sales tax. Because there is an incidental supply to that. You can apply that. You can apply that principle. But if there is a separate contract, suppose you are not doing it. You are not doing it, you subcontract it to a contractor who will only do the fencing. For him, it's a supply to you.
That's okay. That's the
For him, it's a supply to you, and you will be he will be liable to pay tax, and you will be liable to reimburse it to him. For you and the purchaser, it can be argued as incidental supply, and therefore not taxable. And that's the precise thing in Dylam's case. The SLP was dismissed by the Supreme Court on this count only. Whereas, following Dylam's case in L&T, I'm talking about service tax case in L&T, not this. Service tax case in L&T, appeal was admitted by the Supreme Court because in the contract itself there was a division of prices. For construction, so much. For erection, so much. Sale of goods, so much. So the Supreme Court said, once parties agree that construction service, I will say this much, material so much. That means there is an intended supply of the goods, there is an intended supply of services. That's why the appeal was admitted by the Supreme Court. That's also still pending. The dominant nature test has no application, and the traditional decisions. Please note, many of the decisions cited before the Constitution bench were post 366-29A. Considering 366-29A, but still all have been overruled. The traditional decisions which have held that substance of the contract must have been seen have lost their significance when the transactions are of the nature under 366-29A. Even if they go one step further, you want to argue all this, even if the dominant intention of the contract is not to transfer the property in the goods and rather it is rendering of service, or the ultimate transaction is of transfer of immovable property, then also it is open for the states to levy sales tax on the material used in such contract, if such contract otherwise has elements of works contract. So even if your intention is to provide service, even if your intention is to sell the property, still state will levy sales tax. Why? Because under 360-29A it's a works contract. And what is a works contract? We saw the definition. It's a circular thing, it's a vicious circle. What is a works contract? They say it should be a works contract. That was a precise question, sir. What is a works contract? It should be a works contract. Just like in BSNL case, in sale of SIM cards, sir, the dispute was sale of SIM cards. Whether sales tax will be payable or whether it's a part of the service. Service tax department argued the SIM card is nothing, sir. It's like a bus ticket. It's a bus ticket, it's useless thing. It only enables me to activate the service, to identify the particular customer, and therefore it should form a part of the value of the service. Sales tax department argued, no, sir, they are physically importing this from outside India. The goods, they fall under chapter so and so, and they are importing, they are filing a bill of entry, therefore they are goods. Sale is being made, therefore sales tax should be levied. What happened ultimately? The assessee ended up paying both. Matter was referred to the three-judge bench, and Justice Rumapal wrote a beautiful judgment she wrote, and Justice Lakshmanan also wrote a concurring judgment. They profusely hold, profoundly. We are very clear that there cannot be any encroachment. State cannot encroach the union's jurisdiction, union cannot encroach the state's jurisdiction. Therefore what? Only sales tax can be paid, or only service tax can be paid. Okay, which one? That the assessing officer will decide. In a 100-page judgment, this was a precise question, sir. Please tell me, which one has to be paid? Because we cannot go into factual questions, these are matter of facts, therefore the assessing officer will decide. Again, same thing started. We went back to the assessing officer, sales tax fellow says pay sales tax, service tax fellow says pay service tax. Again, matters went to Supreme Court. In Idea Mobile, ultimately they held, it's a service transaction, please pay service tax. Why? Because the Kerala state government conceded that it is not a sale.
Sir, this renting of tangible movable property, there also the same thing, service tax and wage.
Why, sir? Why only supply of tangible goods for use? Software, what is the position, sir? Software, whether it is goods or service, only Brahmaji knows. Nobody else knows, sir, whether it is goods or service. Whether it's a transaction involving supply of goods or supply of service.
Sir, in case of redevelopment, when developer is giving, say, few flats to the landlord, then is it a taxable?
We'll come to that. Those questions are there. Those questions are there.
Sir, if you are saying that the state of Kerala considered that it was not a sale, so that means the precedential value is not that